Timelines when buying and selling a property. Once you've got an accepted offer, there is a timeline that follows up until the transaction closes, based on the terms agreed upon in the purchase contract. Now keep in mind that the specific timetables will vary, depending on what you agreed on in the contract, but let's go over the typical timeframes for a 30-day escrow. Acceptance. Alright, so both sides have come to an agreement on the terms. The purchase agreement is fully signed and accepted by both parties. Unless it falls on a weekend, escrow will typically be open the following day. At this point in time, the point of contact for escrow and title reps are typically provided to both sides. Escrow will provide wiring instructions to the buyer for wiring their earnest money deposit, and the 17-day time period for the buyer investigations begins. Day 1. This is the first day of the buyer's 17-day due diligence time period. During the 17 days following the date that the offer was accepted, the buyer will have this time to review all seller disclosures, local area and natural hazard disclosures, the preliminary title report, homeowner association documents and CC&Rs if applicable, as well as have all inspections done on the property that they wish, such as a pool inspection or a home inspection, etc. During this time period as well, the buyer and the seller will be sent their escrow packages from the escrow company for their completion. Now, if the buyer is getting a loan to purchase the property, the appraisal will also typically be completed within the 17-day time period as well. Day 3. By the end of day 3, the buyer will have deposited the agreed upon earnest money deposit into escrow, where it will be held for the duration of the transaction. Day 7. By this time, the seller should already have completed and submitted all required seller disclosures to the buyer for their review. Day 17. Prior to the 17th day, the buyer will have the opportunity to submit any requests for repairs or credits to the seller, based on any new concerns or issues the buyer may have run across during the due diligence period. Now, the seller is not obligated to agree to all or any of these repairs, although it is typically customary to take care of some of the more reasonable items. By the end of day 17, the buyer must remove their investigation contingencies or cancel the deal if they no longer wish to purchase the property. When the buyer removes these contingencies, they're removing their right to back out with no repercussions, and they're indicating that they plan on moving forward and closing the deal. Day 21. By the 21st day, the buyer will need to remove their financing contingency as well, provided the buyer is obtaining a loan for the purchase. Typically at this point, all contingencies have been removed by the buyer, and the buyer is working with their lender to wrap up the loan package and submit any final loan conditions to the underwriter. The week leading up to the closing. Several days before closing, the buyer should be signing loan documents with a notary, which will be sent to escrow and the lender for final review and approval. Once all of the lender's funding conditions have been met, the file is placed in line for funding. 24 to 72 hours prior to closing. Once the loan is funded, meaning the loan funds have been received by escrow, the funds are dispersed accordingly. Typically, later the same day or the following day, the deed will be taken down to the county recorder's office for recording. Upon confirmation of recording, the title has officially been transferred from the buyer to the seller, and escrow is closed. Now, although this time frame may vary for different scenarios and transactions, this is the typical timeline for a purchase and sale transaction. For more information on the buying or selling process, check out our website for tons of other resources for both buyers and sellers. I'll see you in the next video.